Welcome to another episode of Redesigning Your Relationships podcast. I am one of your hosts, Giovanna Burgess White, with my co-host
Yvette Valdenegro. Hello.
I don't know why you're laughing at me. We just started. Actually, we're so excited about today. We're so excited about every podcast we do, but today is part 4 of our Sex and the City characters. We are ending with Carrie Bradshaw and what these amazing women taught us over 2 decades ago about relationships with men in their life, the relationships with themselves, and relationships with each other. And so we're really excited to dive deep today about Carrie and what she really taught us. If you're watching us for the first time, welcome. If you're listening to this on our podcast platforms on the replay, thank you for listening to us. And don't forget that you can comment live or you can comment in the replay and we will go back and answer all your questions.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So this is going to be the fourth lady on the series, which please go back, and everybody already has been telling us that it's really good. It's raw. It's real. It's taking the characters, it's analyzing them, but kind of doing it in our own little twist and way. And so it's like part 1, 2, 3, 4 leads up to Carrie, which we're going to talk about today because she is obviously the main character. Well, there's arguments for that and against that, but she really is the main character when they started the entire series. So of course we were going to end with her, but I think this is going to be a good one too.
And you don't have to listen to it in the those parts. You can go back and listen to however you want. But what we do like to talk about, again, we're real, we're raw. We're talking about relationships with themselves, relationships with their partners, and then relationships with each other. But we also kind of dive deep and talk about dating then versus now, but also dating then versus now in your 20s and 30s, 40s and 50s and up. So it's kind of, I think that's why people are enjoying it, because now more than ever, it's completely different. The dating game is different. It's changed. It's all these apps, social media. When back then it was like super organic, like you had to go out to meet people. And so we sprinkle that in throughout all of the women of Sex and the City. And I think that's why people really like that. And then we dig deep around, their individual perspective on love. And, today, obviously, we're going to talk about Carrie and the whole relationship with Big throughout the whole series, and then obviously the movies, and then for those of you guys who are watching, and just like that, we won't spoil any of that, but really, if you were a Sex and the City lover and you haven't watched them just like that, we recommend that you do that, because I think later on we're going to probably do some episodes from the characters there in relationships, now, because they are filming it as if they are in the now. So I'm going to bring up Carrie. Let's bring up Carrie. Oh, wait, just kidding. There she is. Yay!
Yay! Boy, talk about someone I'm someone whose hair's been changing, but her hair and look. The one thing I love about her, I just want to say from the very start, and of course, Sarah Jessica Parker carries it into her real life. This woman's fashion sense is so fun to watch. Her wardrobe throughout all the seasons were phenomenal. Shoes, head to toe.
So I wanted to say I brought my Carrie Bradshaw hair when she straightened it, because for those of you guys who watch and know me, I have really curly hair. So I was super inspired today to do my straightened Carrie Bradshaw look. So.
Okay, wait, you know what's so funny? I was going to tell you when we started. Listen, yes, for all those who are actually watching, yes, those shoulder pads in my shoulders. Okay, we got it. Yeah. Secondly, as much as I love Carrie, she's not my favorite. I really don't know if I have it, but I wouldn't say she's my favorite. She's the most unrelatable to me or whatever. But I had to laugh because today I'm kind of more in my Miranda look. Yeah. And no spoiler, but kind of my Shay vibe. So today for me was like kind of the anti-Carrie today, but she is fabulous.
And I didn't wear my Giovanna necklace, like she wore her Carrie necklace, but I did wear my G too. So Sarah Jessica Parker, if you're watching me, this is totally my Carrie vibe for you. Okay.
Yeah, she's me watching. All right. So where do you want to begin with this phenomenal character?
Oh my God. So it's crazy because we were looking for quotes for everyone. And obviously she was the main character in the series. So she had the most quotes. And so it was really hard for me to figure out which ones we were going to use for the podcast. But I think we should start with the very first one, which is the most exciting, challenging, and significant relationship of all is the one you have with yourself. So we're just going to go into that because that's exactly what we do as coaches. We coach women to really have the relationship with themselves first and understand what that is before they can have the perfect marriage, before they can be the perfect mom, right? I want to say perfect, before they have the relationship in their marriage that they want, the relationship with the children that they want. So let's talk about the relationship with yourself and how really I feel like Samantha embodied that the whole way through. I mean, all the women did have a pretty good relationship with themselves, but I feel like Samantha did it the best. And the fact that she's quoting this here, let's talk about that.
Yeah, you know what I love about all this? I feel like Carrie in the beginning was different than the Carrie towards the end. And I know that they all transform, they all change. The great thing about it's a TV program, the writers get to write in that change, right? So, but in real life, as we're watching them, or real life as we're watching our own lives, I love the fact that all of them got to the point where they were all kind of saying the same thing. I think in all of our slides, we have something that says, hey, the relationship with yourself is so important. I think what makes it hard is that they are characters on a screen and real life is real life. So as we look at our own lives, it's like you go, okay, this is really hard, or I'm going through this really challenging point in my life, or it's really hard to love myself, or whatever it is that someone's thinking at the moment. But as we teach and we coach, that doesn't have to be. And those are just what I like to call negative affirmations swirling in your head telling you lies. That's not how it should be. But I love the fact that each one of these characters did grow. They obviously went through some stuff. I mean, I'm sure we're going to get to her relationship with Big, which was traumatic.
Yes,
So
extremely. And I
at
think
the
you
end
said
of the day, she's still focusing in on, hey, it really is what is best for me.
yeah. Well, you said two things: the growth from all of these women, because from beginning to end, I think we forget that we should be growing and we should be changing. Most of us are like, oh, we should have like this like steady life of like copy and paste. And so I love that we got to see that. And are we seeing that within our, decades or every 5 years? And two, the other thing is, when do we, like you said, when do we really take the time for ourselves and talk about it and be about it? No woman wants to do that because it doesn't feel natural. We feel guilty. It feels like, again, unnatural to be like, hey, I'm going to schedule time for myself. Whoever's saying that, you're doing a great job. I love you. But for the most part, most women aren't. And that's where we can't really be the best in any other relationship because we haven't even really figured out the foundation of the relationship with ourselves. So,
Yeah. And I think too, as we, just like we were saying in the other episodes, there's like this underlying, every single generation looks at that statement. So even you saying guilty or it seems unnatural to take out time for ourselves, I would think, and this is just a general statement, that the older you are, the more that that paradigm in your brain is active and alive versus say 20 something year olds. Thank God, whatever they've gone through in their lives or whatever we were teaching or not teaching that generation, the one thing that they have is that they are, hey, is this good for me? Am I coming from a place where it's going to benefit me to be in this relationship or to do this certain action or whatever, which is great. But I think the older you get, we weren't taught that. That's a whole different. So a lot of these things that we talk about, it's society that is telling us to be or think a certain way. And again, we're not here to say that it's right or wrong. We're just here to say, let's talk about it because you could be 80 years old, but think like a 20-year-old, and you could be 20 with the heart of an 80-year-old. It's
yeah,
whatever makes you feel the best you inside.
yeah, I love it. Yeah, and I think that's why we hear like, oh my god, millennials are so selfish, or oh my god, like again, that's a different generation talking about a new generation, and even as we grow as individuals, as the generations come, they grow as well, and we're obviously moving forward. Again, we're not here to say what's right and wrong, but it's really great to see that. What I would like to see from these 4-part series is that the younger generation stops and takes some time when it comes to relationships and dating because they don't know the organic way because they weren't taught that because of social media. So I feel like as we mix and we talk about all of the relationships, dating, relationships with yourself, I think this is a great 4-part series to really like pick and choose what fits your lifestyle best, but also to kind of like slow down and not worry so much about the dating apps, the social media, and really like putting yourself out, putting a version of you out there that's not really you. So let's talk about this. She's talking to the girls and she's saying, why is the woman the one that has to change and never the guy? This is deep for us because of what we do, but I'll let you start. I'll let you start because I'll go off real quick.
Yeah, again, and I would say for this one, doesn't matter how old you are. I feel like women fight this all the time. It is the guy who never, I shouldn't say never, more than likely doesn't change. It's the women who, whether it's your career, children, thought process on friends, doing things for yourself. It's we take it upon ourselves to go, okay, I'll do that. I'll be the one. I'll be the one who takes action. I'll be the one who sacrifices. I'll be the one who, compromises. I'll be the one to make this happen. And you could argue, is that scientific? Is it in our DNA? Is it psychology that brings us up? I have no idea, but I do know that this is true and actually such a hindrance for some people because it's a paradigm. It's a mental thought process that this is the way it either is or should be in their mind.
Okay, so this is where again what we teach and what we guide women to do is it's because we don't know who we really are. We don't establish our core values, our mission statement for ourselves. So we get into a relationship and we decide, oh well, let me figure out what they want, my partner, my spouse, and let me make that happen versus stating, this is who I am, this is what I want, this is what I want my relationship to be. And if that can't happen, then guess what? We're not meant for each other. It is that simple. It is that simple. And I don't know why we've created this, again, society and the shoulds, and maybe your upbringing is what your parents taught you. It is that simple with not just your relationships, with what you want in life, your job, what you want to do every day, how you want to wake up in the morning. It's the same thing with your relationship. And yes, do I think this was back in the 90s and early 2000s, definitely a change in thought process, but they all talked about this, and this is what we talk about with our clients in their marriages. They want to change their spouse, right? They want them to change for them, but really when it really needs to go back to is, what do you really want as a person? Establish that 10, 15, 20 years in your marriage. You're going to have those conversations, have that open line of communication, and then from there the change will happen. But you're not changing yourself and you're not changing your spouse. You're actually talking about who you are and fundamentally in the core what you want to be. And no one's ever taught us to do that. So that's why I really like that quote, because nobody has to change. A change is good, but no one has to change for their partner. No one should have to change. No one should say, like, if you're not going to do this, then we can't be in a relationship. It should be communication around what you need for yourself and what you want from this relationship. And if it doesn't work out, then it's time to move on. And I don't know why it's so hard for people to just say it's just not going to work out. Like, why are we wasting the time?
Okay, so there's 13 years between us. So I'll speak for the older generation. This whole thought process of why do we have to change? It is so taught that women don't have the power. I can tell you when I grew up, Yvette, don't be too loud. Yvette, don't be aggressive. Playing sports, it was like, hey, guys don't particularly care for athletic girls. Like, put on a dress, like just the thought, like, you need to change in order to be more appealing to whatever it is that you're being attracted to. Now, that goes in, different thought processes or different examples, but that was whether it was a parental thing or society saying, I'm not the one with the power, the man is. So to change, and like you said, you go through the mundane, like, I graduate, you get married, all the things. You start saying to yourself, well, wait a minute, what is it that I want? Which is the beautiful thing that you said in the beginning. The people that are younger right now that are experiencing, I get to date, I get to experience, I get to live. Yes, you do. And figure out you now, because I don't want to say harder, but there's more obstacles or things that are happening in your life in order to go, okay, I want to change, but now all these things are around me. And I'm the first to know, to say, it can be such a helpless feeling to want to change but feel like you're the one fish going against the stream.
Oh,
But the awesome thing is that once you go up the stream, you realize that you enter a humongous lake with other people, men and women, who support and believe exactly what you're doing and will be your, like, they're cheering you like, yes, you made it up the stream. And that stream is work. And we always talk about that. The framework that we take our clients through, it is work. It's not something you just go, oh, I'm going to change today and it'll be over. No, it is literally a mindset that takes time. It's a process and repetition over and over and over.
And I think our 13-year difference, like it was also, I was brought up that way too. And also coming from a Mexican Catholic family, it's like the women are supposed to be in charge of everything. It's like a whole nother mentality. I feel like I'm a generation that was kind of like shifted. It was like, okay, well, I'm going to start to make my own decisions. I'm going to start to do what I want. I'm going to start to go up the river. Don't really care what people say. I mean, when I was younger, it was a little different. With the generation 10 years under me, late 20s, early 30s, I think they're voicing themselves more. They're still the society should. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. My 16-year-old has been dating in high school, and one of the things that I try to teach him is like, you're still so young, and it's not that I don't want him dating. Like, great, if you want to date, you can date. But he had a self-realization of like, what am I doing? Like, I'm in high school. I don't even know what I really want. How am I supposed to have these, have a partner, have a girlfriend, when I don't really even know what that a means, and the expectations can be so high. And so I think it's I think it's great to see my teenagers already kind of thinking about themselves first. And I hope that anybody that listens and watches this, that it's never too late to do that. Like, you do have to figure out what it is that you want first. We go back to that, putting the oxygen mask on first, and then you can put it on someone else. It's the same thing with these types of relationships. So I really, I love what we're doing with this, because it really does, whoever's watching and listening, it's going to help you figure out what your voice is, and really to start thinking about what it is that you really want for yourself, so that you can be that version in the relationship that you want to have. I feel like a lot of people are just lost and they're not sure, which brings me to the 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds now who are dating on these apps. They're not even being who they should be, because they're so worried about the competition and the other people, and what does that look like, and what is he thinking, and what is she thinking. And when we listen to these conversations with these women and men, I'm like, my God, it's so exhausting. Like, you haven't even gone on a date yet. It's like you're just swiping. Like, that's a lot of,
if you go on a date, you don't really know who you're going on a date with.
right. And that's the scary part. That's why I really hope people start to go out more and meet people naturally and be the version of you want to be. And if that person doesn't like you, you can move on. There's so many people out there. So I think there's so many different people. Everyone's looking for love. I mean, that's something that everybody wants. So don't feel like hopeless and restless and like just saying, I just got to get out there, and whatever version of me that is going to be, I'm going to do that, because that's what I feel like a lot of the younger generation is doing.
Yeah. Well, and the opposite of that, it's never too late. It is never too late to find yourself, be yourself, change yourself, express yourself. And if that's your desire to find someone in your life, it's never too late either.
All right, we'll go to the next one. It says, when real people fall down in life, they get right back up and keep on walking. Ooh, she did a real quote right there. Oof. I don't know what season that was from, but I feel like that happened to them a lot in all of the seasons. And true. Like, let's talk about that. Like, a lot of people just think it's the world.
Yeah. I know, like, I feel like I'm a realist with stuff, but life is going to happen. Yeah. There is if you woke up today and you took a breath of life, guess what? Life is going to happen. So whether it was your snooze alarm going off 5 million times, whether it's getting a phone call, work, kids, responsibilities, you got a flat tire, whatever, life is going to happen. You cannot stop it. So embracing that there's going to be lows and there's going to be amazing highs. And you just have to go, all right, what do I learn? What is the universe telling me to experience right now? How is this going to affect me, change me? But in the positive side of like, okay, now I'm going to get back up and I got it and let's do it again. But I think that I'm not going to say it's super easy because it is hard. We think about our past. We think about things that have happened to us, and that all feeds in when something bad happens. It's like, oh, but I actually, Julie says this all the time, that it takes just as much brain power to worry about something in a negative space than it does. It takes just as much willpower just to expect the best in something too. So if you're going to use all that energy and be dwelling on something, isn't it a better choice to be dwelling on something that is positive and going to bring you forward than it's just going to keep you in such negative space?
That was actually our messaging this morning: overthinking and taking action. Which one are you doing? And a lot of people overthink things and they don't take action. And the one thing about this quote that I really like, and then I want to just really talk about, is it in Sex in the City, they were either talking, again, three relationships that they were talking about: the relationship with themselves, the relationship with their partners that they were dating, and the relationship with the women. I think it's really important. We have to have the downs. Like, no, we're never going to meet anybody that's everything's perfect, that everything is like positive and sunshines and rainbows and butterflies. Because with the downs, we get better. So if it's a down with a partner, if it's a down within a relationship and it didn't work out, that just, you just know now for the next relationship what you really want and what you really need. And a lot of the time it's self-reflection on what you need to do as a person. Same thing with your group of girlfriends. This happens all the time. Seasons change, your life changes. Sometimes your friends don't change with that. Great. It was great when it needed to be, and now it's time to move on and make new friends. Same thing with relationship, just again with yourself. You have to go through the downs to understand and also to appreciate the good times. So I think it's really important that we look at those things as like writing our chapters and really understanding that this is going to help us be the version of ourselves that we need to be, and also understand what it is that we need. Because sometimes when we don't make the mistakes or we don't have those downs, I mean, we just don't really know. I mean, you're probably just living a life on repeat and you think you're happy. You probably think you're like at an 8, but you're really like at a 2 because you have no idea what more there is to have. So I really like that quote because you can really take it with any relationship in your life. All right. I'm going to leave the big one for later, or the last one, because we'll get into that. So let's see. You shouldn't have to sacrifice who you are just because somebody else has a problem with it. So good. It kind of goes back to the change, right? Like, you don't have to sacrifice anything in any relationship, job, partners, friendships. It's just, I know, easier said than done. It's just kind of move on, grow and learn from it. But a lot of people stay there. They stay stuck. And it's like, but you're doing it to yourself and you're the one that's making the choice, not the other person, not the circumstance or not the event. You made the choice. You're the one in it.
Boy, this one's a big one. I think at the core of all this is that all of us want to be accepted. We all want to be loved. And there is such a feeling of rejection when someone doesn't accept you for who you are. It's like this horrible, I don't want them to think that way, right? But yet you're like, I so want to just be myself. Why can't they just accept me for who I am? And they're not. That's okay. That's so okay. Let it go, because there's going to be 5 million other people who accept you for who you are. Now, I will say this, take the time. I think anytime anyone ever says to us, hey, this is why this is happening, maybe it's not a good thing, there's a breakup, this is why we're breaking up, right? It's always a good space to go, why? Not to dwell on it in a negative way, like, oh, they didn't like me and I need to change. And he said, my hair was whatever and I need to do. No. A true self-reflection. How are you as a boyfriend or girlfriend? How was your communication? What was the experiences like? Where do you feel like you could grow? All those amazing things, yes. But to sit there and feel like you're the bad person because of whatever just happened, no way. Because if someone really has a problem with you, in the long run, that is their problem. As long as you're not being disrespectful, rude, inconsiderate, and have, character issues that you need to work on, because obviously we don't want to excuse those at all. I mean, we all need to be growing. But in general, just for who you are as a person, if you're not accepted, that's horrible. But I do feel like so many of us overlook that, because the bottom line is you just want to be accepted and cared for in the long run. And that's a hard pill to swallow.
Well, and I also think, I mean, this goes back to even when we were coaching engaged couples, you never were true to who you wanted to be and never talked about it. And so a lot of times you go into these marriages and you have to sacrifice things like not having children or not being able to, ever leave your city, or, not being able to get a job or quit your job. Like there's so many what we call the non-negotiables that you have to talk about before you get married or before you're in a serious relationship, because that later on becomes resentment, and that later on becomes like, well, we have children and now we can't get divorced and now we can't do this, and it's like you live a life that you never wanted. And so you don't need to sacrifice anything, and you need to really, again, like you said, self-reflect. And is this a relationship you want to be in? A lot of times we just don't want to start over again. It's like, okay, well, again, you're making that decision. So you made the decision to sacrifice whatever it was in your relationship, and now you're telling us that you don't want to start all over again. Well, then you can't really be upset about it, right? So these are the things that they're serious, and everyone thinks that, oh, once we get married those things will change, and we're here to tell you it doesn't. This is one of the leading reasons for divorce, is just you really were never that person. And so when the people dating now, it's like that's why you have to be that version of you, because you're going to already kind of start a relationship on false pretenses, and that person's gonna be like, well, that's not the person I started dating. And that happens all the time. That's obviously you're not going to be the same person you married, because you're growing and growth is good. But you don't want to be like, well, you already set yourself up for failure because you're doing things that you would have never really done, or you're saying that you're this person that you're not, you really aren't, because you're too scared to be you. So I think that's why that one's kind of important, because we've been seeing that a lot just in the last 4 years of coaching in general, in every type of relationship, dating, engaged, married, divorced. It's like, you got to learn from that. And you're the one that makes those decisions. Those circumstances are not anybody else's fault.
Okay, so here's a thought I just had. You're married for, let's just say 5-10 years. You grow, whether it's growing together, growing apart, growing in different ways. You're just growing as a person, doesn't matter. All of a sudden you wake up, kids get older, blah, 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 and life circumstances. Now you're able to just kind of more focus on each other, but all that change has gone on. This is where it's like you start to feel like they're not accepting. They don't really love me. I'm different. He's got a problem with it. Well, I don't really care if he has a problem with it. And he's thinking, well, she has a problem with me. I'm going out with my guy friends now and she doesn't like it. That's where the comes. But again, if this is truly what's happening, it's almost, well, yes, eventually both people. But when you kind of wake up to, hey, it's not like it's someone's fault. It's not like, because you're really casting that on the other person. It's more of, I really have changed. This really is different. And now what am I going to do?
Yep.
That's where the work comes in, as far as like, if you want to have a strong relationship, you grew together for a reason in the beginning.
Yep.
You can honestly grow together even 10, 15, 20 years later, if that's truly what you want.
Yep.
It can happen.
Right.
All right, ma'am.
These last two are going to be big related. So we're going to go into our big conversation. So I'm looking for love, real love, ridiculous, inconvenient, consuming, can't live without each other love. And I'm going to piggyback it with, did I ever really love big, or was I addicted to the pain, the exquisite pain, of wanting someone so unattainable? So this is why we end with her, because of the whole series was built around big. Like from beginning to end was all about her love with big, how it was never the right time, how the women were like, you got to let it go. She's not good for you. Getting back together, breaking up his marriage, after he didn't marry her. It was so painful to watch, but this is real.
And so real. So real.
So it's like, let me.
Okay, so just even off of what you just said, I'm like, let's just go to the beginning.
Yes.
The beginning is her own friends are telling her, maybe this isn't the guy for you. Maybe, and they give her reasons why.
Yes.
And of course, just like you said, she made the choice to continue on. Now, obviously, he makes dumb choices. It's like they're both doing stuff together that's not helping, whatever. But I'm just saying, she made the choice, even though her friend said, now, this is just a good thing. I think it's so important, the people that are closest to you, that know you the most. It's not like they make the decisions for you, but if they truly have a strong opinion about something that's going on in your life, it's probably worth perking up your ears and going, okay, I'm going to give this some consideration, and or just respect what they're saying. You don't have to change your life. You don't have to change. I'm not saying to just, oh, my friends dictate. No. But if it's truly a concern, instead of being defensive about it and maybe wearing gray covered glasses, these are the times you go, okay, before I make any decisions, I really need to consider what other people think. Because I think that's because you're in the very beginning, it was shaky, just shaky ground altogether.
Well, I'm going to pause you because this is where I'm going to be like, ooh, I can't believe you're going to say this. This is not scripted. She has no idea. But
Oh,
I'm going
God.
to say this very carefully. Big was always honest with her.
Mm-hmm.
Big did not play games with her. She wanted so many things from him that he could not give her. Okay. I would say almost everything until the end of the season. She grew. She changed. She dated. She grew some more. Yes, she always went back to kind of compare, especially with the relationship with Aiden. With Big, it wasn't Big. It wasn't, but she knew what she wanted with Big, but he never promised her something he couldn't give her. She kept on going back. Yes, they, had, I don't even remember how many seasons, but he finally realizes that that's who he really wants, but he never made it, like, you should hear what I'm saying, like, he never promised her something he couldn't have. If anything, he was so honest with her, and she was doing this to herself, and her friends were kind of explaining that to her, but then she became the better version of Carrie. And that's, I think, sometimes we like, again, this is an amazing love story because it took almost a decade for them to get together, and then even with the wedding and the movies, but they ended up together, and it was crazy how that happened. But she wasn't the same person that she was from when she started dating him, and she kind of had to go through all that to be the version of her where they were finally meant for each other. Everyone's like, oh, they weren't for each other from the beginning, but it wouldn't have never worked if they would have gotten together of season one. That wouldn't have worked the way it was supposed to be. So that's what I have to say about Vic. I just feel like he was always pretty honest, and his growth wasn't as big as all these other characters. He did have growth, and he did get married, and he did kind of see with his relationship with his wife that that's not what he wanted. But I just always felt like he was honest with her, and she just really pushed and pushed and pushed and tried to, like. And he's like, I can't do that. Like, I can't be that person, And he didn't really change who he was for her, which people shouldn't have to change. That's where I'm going with that. So when you feel that pressure, it's like it's just not meant to be, or it's not the right time, because there's something missing in either both of you, one of you. So I thought that's really a great way to end our whole 4-part series, was because there had to be so much more in between for her and for him, and having all those relationships. I also really taught them both what
Yeah.
they really wanted.
And to honor and respect what they had, even though it wasn't as perfect as or for her, it wasn't as perfect as what she really thought she needed or wanted.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. That all takes time. It all takes experience, and to trust that it's okay.
Yes. Yes. That relationships are great. And again, we're not here to say that you should or shouldn't be with the same person for the rest of your life. We will tell you this. It is important. I mean, I think I don't know if that's like a statistic, but like, it's really hard to know who you are and who you want to be with only being with one person. And I'm not just talking like, sexually. I'm just talking like in general, like even with your friend groups, you got to be around other people and figure that out. I think it's really important for all of the women to have had those relationships, because at the end, they all found what their version of happiness in a relationship was. And they wouldn't have found that if they would have settled, if they would have sacrificed, or if they would have been in a relationship that maybe would have lasted. But it's like, I'm making these sacrifices that turn into resentment, that turn into a relationship that wasn't even supposed to be yours. So I do think I do think that, again, any generation that's listening, it's important to have that experience, and it's important to understand that, and it's important to understand that relationships end, but it's not always a bad thing. If anything, again, it's a great thing. You're learning from that and understanding what it is that you really need and what it is that you really want. But you have to establish that for yourself before you can get into another one.
So well said. This has all been really good. And again, please go back and listen to the other episodes because you'll glean and learn from each one of these characters. They're all tied together, but they're all so uniquely different. And that's what makes this show so incredible. And no, we're not getting one day, but we're not getting anything from Sex and the City. But definitely watch all those seasons. And then the new season that just came out I actually think is better than the other ones, to be honest.
I can't wait to do the end just like that series, or our series. I do. And if you're listening to us now and you're like, what the heck is Sex in the City? I never heard of it because what's happened. I talked to people I've talked to people that are my age, older, younger. I'm like, what? I'm like, you don't know what that is? I promise you. It's probably going to be a binge watch. It's totally worth it because of these 4 women. Love their friendship, like their friendship alone. Like I love the show more because of their friendship than I ever did because of the men. And the growth, like seeing them growing up in their 20s, 30s, and 40s and seeing them now in their 50s, it's mind-blowing. And because now you really see the world has changed completely from the 90s to 2020. It's insane how the show was able to stop for so many years. I think they stopped for over a decade and then come back and really bring it with what's happening right now.
Gosh. And for all those haters that are out there talking about, oh, they've aged. Yeah, guess what? People age. And you know what? What I also love about this show is they're all, I think all 50 and above.
Yes.
But they're all completely still in their career or raising or finishing up raising children, finding them, like growing stronger. I don't want to give any other information, but hey, guess what? Life continues, and life, guess what, will continue until whenever the universe says we'll see you in heaven.
Yeah.
So life is always going to continue. I love that part about it. It's like it didn't just, their lives didn't stop when they were in their 30s. It continued on, and then it picks back up and it shows them as characters and all the things that they're going through now, which again, all real life circumstances and things, which will continue forever.
Well, we should be sponsored by them, even though we're not. If you're listening, anybody from Sex and the City, we will take a sponsorship for these episodes. Well, we want to thank everyone again for watching us live or listening to us on the replay. If there's any topics, guests that you want us to have on, please message us. If you're listening to us on our podcast platforms, can you just screenshot, tag, share with the world? We would love to have more viewers and listeners. And if any women out there are listening and you are ready to redesign the marriage that you desire, you can give us a call. We will do a virtual consultation with you, complimentary. And of course, if anybody is going through a divorce or recently divorced, we also do recovery coaching, and we want to help you rediscover and recover and be the best version of yourself. So we will be back again every Wednesday with a live and every Friday with a brand new podcast.
Absolutely. All right. See you later.
Bye.